Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our first ever Principal Town Hall. Please take note that this session is being recorded. Please also take the time to turn off your videos and your sound so that we can have maximum bandwidth for this meeting. This will be a series of ongoing town halls that the principals will be putting on, including the elementary principal. So please look forward to messages and notifications and join us if you can. The next town hall session will be a joint town hall session between the elementary principal and I. We will discuss matters that are pertinent to the upper elementary students, transitions into middle school, and how the progression of our courses are helping our students be successful in the future. The goal is for us to be able to have these town hall sessions at least once every quarter. The hope also is that at some point we will be able to have our sessions in face-to-face as well as virtual in what is called a hybrid model. Content will be different for each meeting, and so we encourage you to join for each and every meeting. Send your questions to Ask a Question in the chat box, and I will do my best to get to those questions at the end of this session. I'm so happy to get a chance to speak with you, and I look forward to the time when we can have a more organic conversation in person. Before we begin, I would like to open our time with a word of prayer. Please bow your heads with me. Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you that you are good. We thank you, Lord, that you continue to provide and protect the ICS community in the island of Singapore. Lord, we lift up all of those around the world who are suffering and impacted by not only the pandemic, but all the other trials and tribulations that are happening around the world. Heavenly Father, we thank you that we are given the blessing to educate and to nurture these young men and women. But we don't take lightly the responsibility that you've given to us, and we ask for grace, mercy, and wisdom as we make decisions and navigate down their educational journey. Thank you for the support of the parents, the support of the faculty, and most of all, your support, Lord. Lord, we lift up this meeting to you. Lord, may it be a time of engagement, a time of learning for all of us. Lord, may my words be clear and may they glorify you. It's in your Son's name we pray. Amen. So I'd like to just run you through what we're going to be talking about today a little bit. So I'll begin by talking about the purpose of town hall meetings and what they will look like going forward. I would also like to take some time to share who I am and what my passions are and a little bit about my family, as I do know that some people who are joining us today may not necessarily know me too well, either because of the restrictions of campus access or you're new, and we do have some friends joining us from elementary school. There are a lot of good things to celebrate that have happened in the first semester, and I'm just going to highlight a few for you. I will also tell you what we have to look forward to this semester and focus on a specific subject for this quarter. We will finish off with a time of questions and answers. Thank you to all of those who have pre-submitted questions. And if you wish to submit questions now, you can do that through the Ask a Question in your chat box. Town hall meetings used to be called principals' coffees when I first started in education. They were really meant to be an informal chat between the principals and parents. What had happened over time is they morphed into more of an information giving session and parents were less involved. My goal is that these would be parent-driven meetings, that you would be the ones asking the questions and I would be doing my best to provide the answers. Ideally, the questions will be given to me beforehand so that I can be prepared ahead of time. However, there's always follow-up questions and things that come to your mind, and we welcome you to ask those as well. You'll find updates on school division matters, and we'll talk more about how the cadence will work, but they will move towards being live, quarterly, and hopefully hybrid sessions as well. Many town hall meetings that I've participated in previous schools were just an opportunity to sit around the table and to chat about how we're doing as a school, how we can be better, and just getting feedback and knowing what it is you as parents see from the outside looking in. So a little bit about who I am. I'm sure you've heard your kids talk about me and my craziness of CrossFit, but in the center of this photo is my family. Many of you have either met with or spoken with Miss Jiyoung Kong, who works in the front office. Ms. Kong and I met over 20 years ago in South Korea. My intentions to go to South Korea were to just save up for graduate school and to return to Canada after 2 years. The Lord had different plans, and he blessed me with my wife and now 2 children, Aiden, who is in grade 6, and Kian, who's in grade 4. I'm sure many of you have heard me at the beginning of the year talk about my visit here and how I was overwhelmed by the love and nurturing and warmth in this community. And my kids have talked about how amazing this community is almost on a daily basis. The family is at the center because that's the center of my life. Christ is a part of our family, and the family is a part of him, and they are the center. One of my biggest passions, as you can see on the left of your screen, is CrossFit. Interestingly enough, we are a not-for-profit K-12 CrossFit affiliate. What that means is we are legally permitted to use the methodology as well as the name CrossFit. We have a school name for our CrossFit organization called CrossFit Night Nation. Currently, we are offering CrossFit to students in the high school who are varsity athletes, as well as an elective for our middle school students. And next year, we will be offering an elective for our high school students as well. This might seem like a hobby or something as to why you might be questioning why this is so important to me and why I want to bring it into school. But there's plenty of research that points to the physical fitness of a student, their mental and emotional well-being increasing, and therefore academic results increasing. I've seen a change already. Students who, if I look through PowerSchool and we see a lot of absences, tardies, or demerits that have had hardly any this year, and they just feel so passionate and they want to be here to work out and have fun and to get fit, and they feel sort of a responsibility to be a better person because of what they're doing in the gym. It changed my life. I went from being over 100 kilos to now 80 kilos. I went from being almost redlined in everything in terms of markers on my health test in 2017 to being a healthy, fit individual. And I've seen that same change in a lot of our students. It is phenomenal to watch how well they move, how confident they are, and how much they're really enjoying it. Prior to coming here to Singapore, as you see from left to right, I was born and raised in Canada. I spent my first 24 years of my life there. I had never believed in a second that I would live for the next 20 overseas. In fact, the first time I was ever on an airplane was when I stepped on a plane to fly to South Korea, where I would spend the next 17 years of my life. I moved to Malaysia for 2 years, working in an international school there, and now find myself here on the island of Singapore. I've worked in AP schools, I've worked in IB schools, and now find myself back in the AP as well. The word potential loading kind of summarizes what I believe as an educator. I believe there's an enormous potential in each and every student. Now that may not be in a specific subject, but it could be in something such as the arts, music, fitness, English, but it does not necessarily have to be in one. And I believe that we're continually loading, we're continually growing, and it's our jobs as educators to find that potential, to tap into it, and that every student has a right to a quality education and it's our job to ensure that they get it. There are quite a few things that we could be celebrating from the first semester. The obvious is that we made it through the first semester, and now we're in the month of February and we have not had to go online. There are so many schools around the world and so many within the NICS network who are continuing to have to face online learning. Schools are going back and forth, and there are even international schools that don't have all their teachers and students in country yet. But I want to focus a little bit on what's happening in here and forget the pandemic for a while. In our AP results, performed above the worldwide average or above other schools around the world on just about all of our exams. We even outperformed the schools here on the island in half of our AP exams. This is a phenomenal thing to do given what the students had to go through, the 2 a.m. exams, when most in North America were doing it at the regular time under regular and normal conditions. 91% of our students scored a 3 or above. 70% scored a 4 or above, and 34 scored a 5, with 5 being the highest. Our PSAT results that we just got back recently saw our grade 9 students score 105 points above the global average. Our grade 10s 175 points above the global average, and our grade 11s 123 points above the global average. The PSAT is marked out of 1,600 points. So that's a significant amount to be above the worldwide average. This, I believe, speaks volumes to not only the job that we're doing here at ICS in educating our students, but just how hard our students are working and how highly intelligent that they truly are. A couple points to think about in terms of improvement, because we're always trying to be better. We're telling our students that it's not about who you are now, but where you're going. The class of 2022 from last year to this year saw a 77-point increase, and our class of 2023 saw a 111-point increase. These two results are just a testament to the academic excellence that we're offering here at ICS and how well our students are able to adapt to ever-changing dynamics of the educational world as it stands. As we don't have AP and PSAT in the middle school, the measure that we use to determine the success of our middle school students is the MAP testing. We try not to use MAP to compare student to student or school to school. We use MAP as a growth measure to see whether or not our students are progressing towards meeting and exceeding the standard. MAP tests our students' abilities in English and math against the standards in which we are using as a school. As you can see, here you have the 3-year comparison, which takes, for example, our grade 6 students, goes all the way back to when they were in grade 4 and measures their growth from one year to the next. On average, most will grow 3, maybe 4 points a year. And as you can see here, just about all of our students are exceeding that measure as well. It's stunning for me to see that our grade 8s in math have seen a 23-point increase from starting grade 6 to grade 8, which tells me that what we've been doing in recent years in math is having a positive impact on the results of our students. And finally, one of the areas that I would like to celebrate is sports at our school. Obviously, I'm an athlete. I was a former athlete and a former coach. Athletics are important to me, as I've shared with you with my CrossFit example. We've seen a resumption of sports, and the CBL will be starting up very soon. Even though the students haven't been able to play games, they've been consistently coming to school and making sure that they're staying physically active. What I really like seeing is how our high school, middle school students have been helping out at the start of ECAs and coaching our students out on the field and on the courts. Sports is an important part of our school when we want to offer a holistic education. And I'm so proud of what Mr. Wood has been able to accomplish in the first semester, the commitment of our coaches and the commitment of the students. Finally, the senior thesis, which was the first time this year we were able to have our students and parents on campus at the same time. It was actually the first time that I got to speak and meet with a lot of our senior parents. Of the 18 students who participated in the senior thesis, 16 of them had representation at that evening. This is well up from other numbers, and I think it speaks volumes to the engagement that not only our students, but our parent community has with our school. When I moved around, I was amazed by just how in depth the students was able to take their research skills, their critical thinking skills, and to connect a lot of what they learned to what they were passionate about. We saw students who had taken a deeper look into whether or not veganism can become an eating disorder called orthorexia. I had never heard of the word orthorexia before this presentation, but what this student was able to present to me really got me thinking about how something that can be so pure and so good can become a problem if we are not careful. The research presented was amazing, and just the way that it all tied together just showed me the holistic long-term educational benefits that she's gotten from this school. We saw students look into brain activity, students who advocated for third culture kids, those who advocated for animal welfare, as well as green living. The presentations were confident, they were poised, articulate, and just something that I believe we all should be very, very proud of. They did all of this, as I said, under conditions that nobody else has ever had to do before. And I think that speaks a lot to the character of our students. Spiritual Emphasis Week just finished up last week. And I think the big highlight for me was watching how our older students, as they're grouped together with our younger students, nurtured and mentored our younger students. I spent the entire week in the gym listening to Miss Bandy and the guest speakers give testimony and challenge our students to face their fears. I loved how it all tied together, but watching those older students to grade 10s, 11s, 12s really bring along and lead by example for our younger kids. What an amazing opportunity it is to build those leadership skills and that empathy skills and the patience and wisdom that it takes to be able to help move along a group of younger kids who perhaps can't sit through 40 or 50 minutes of a talk as well as others. There was a lot of fun activities that happened, and I know kids came home messy and sweaty, but they were laughing and they had a great deal of fun. What I really liked about it as well was how it all tied together. One might think, what does throwing an egg at another person to help them catch it have to do with the Bible and have to do with Christ-centered education? Well, no one wants to be hit in the head with an egg, and that's something that is a fear of being hit by a pile of spaghetti that has been dyed, a fear of having to eat something that perhaps you wouldn't eat if you went out to a restaurant. All things that were safe, yet got the students thinking and engaged about the idea of fear and how the Lord tells us to fear not. It was all summarized very nicely and tied together by the speakers. We had an alumni speaker come in, we had student speakers, we had teacher speakers, and Miss Bandy led some sessions as well. It was fun, it was engaging, it was informative, and I believe several students felt challenged to deepen their love and passion for Christ, and other students were challenged to be able to go out and really think and perhaps hopefully some stage come to Christ. Coming up in this semester, some things for you to watch out for. In March, we will have our middle school and high school production. There'll be more information coming out for this at a later date, as I am trying to see how many parents we can bring on campus under the current conditions. An application has been filed with the Singapore government for us to have multiple members from the same household attend in the evening. Students will be given the opportunity throughout the day to come in during their their advisory, or during their study halls. As soon as I have the information as to how many people we can have on campus, tickets will be given to each performer, and the performer will hand out the tickets to their family members. As soon as I have the numbers, you will hear from me. We're hoping that we can get everybody from a household on campus, but we're praying for that one, and it would be great if you could pray as well. Another impact of the current conditions is our what we would normally have international night. Me being in my first year, I really have no idea other than what I've seen on the website and on YouTube videos of what international night looked like. But we want to celebrate this community. We want to celebrate its diversity. We want to celebrate just all the cultures that we have here. So we are working on plans for what we're going to call an International Week. Students have already heard about an International Week contest in the arts, in writing, and as well as design. The teachers of these courses have reached out to students and made announcements that they can begin during the first week of March talking and building their portfolio for this. It is completely optional, but we do hope that others participate in the similar way that they participated in the photo contest back in December. You'll be hearing soon from Ms. Bandy and Ms. Lafferty about Week Without Walls. It is disappointing that we can't go overseas, but we've got plenty of opportunities here on the island to serve. We can serve our own community with the work that needs to be done around our campus, as well as serve a lot of the charitable communities that are here, such as Willing Hearts. Similar to the middle school, high school production application, as soon as I hear back on the success of the application to have a live performance for the production, will have an impact on graduation. Our intention is to have graduation live and in person, as well as streamed out through Zoom or through YouTube. As soon as I have more information about whether or not we are fully live and the number of people we can have in the audience, you will hear from me. We know we can have students participate in the graduation live. It's just a matter of how many parents we can bring in. The number at this stage is 50. We're hoping to be able to bring it up so that at least families of 4 can be all in attendance. And finally, we would like to point out that we've had a couple of academic ECAs this year. A couple actually weren't attended, which was a bit disappointing, but we will continue to push and promote these. Dr. Rader is leading Brain Bowl. There was forensics, as well as Ms. Deibler is reading math competitions. Forensics is one that I believe wasn't as well known or well attended as it could have been, but this is more speech and debate. And so we'll be promoting that one a little bit more as we lead into the following season at the beginning of next year. One of the things I would like to do in each and every town hall is to put a spotlight on a subject. Normally, I would actually have the teacher come into the room where we will be having our town hall while we're sipping on our coffee and bring you through a lesson, actually have you do something that the kids would do. Unfortunately, that's not possible at this stage, but I would like to talk a little bit about our middle school design. Middle school design is built around the idea of creating and problem solving and really looking at a way to innovate what is already out there and perhaps do things better. There's advocacy. Students can think of, for example, you'll see in the center, the whale. The students learn to program. They learn to have an object that reacted in a certain way to movements around it. But it wasn't just about the programming and about building the object. The students here chose a whale to advocate for the species that is endangered. You can see Dr. Helen Rader is holding an infographic that actually gave a lot of data and statistics that highlighted why and what we can do in order to help save these animals. We had students who took their passion for sport and programmed LED on their shoes so that when they made a certain movement, the shoe lit up and different colors lit up. Students currently are out now looking at HDVs in the area and trying to design a way that they could be more efficient and just more visually appealing. This is a course where problem solving and thinking skills are developed on a daily basis. And it's not one that you see coming home a lot because there's not a lot of homework in it. It's one that's really, unless your student comes home excited about it, you may not hear, but it is probably one of the most important courses that we offer, because it's developing all those 21st century learning skills in an organic way that the World Economic Forum is promoting for students these days. So that was me for about 26 minutes. I apologize that I went a little bit longer, but I would like to take this opportunity to introduce Miss Sarah Go, who I'm sure you've seen welcoming you every morning with a wonderful smile behind her mask at the front gate. And Miss Sarah Go is going to help moderate our Q&A. Thank you, Miss Go.
So thank you for the informative session presentation, Dr. Mr. Harding. It's so good to see familiar names here. My name is Sarah Go, as mentioned, and I am the Advancement Director here at ICS. I will be assisting Mr. Harding with the moderating of the live questions today. So thank you in advance for submitting your questions in the chat box down there. And feel free to continue to do so during the next portion of our meeting. So let's kick off the question portion with a warm-up question, Mr. Harding.
All right.
Let's go. Here, has there been any follow-up or a decision made on new uniform bottoms for MS and HS girls?
Yes, good question. Great timing for the question. We just recently was able to come to a conclusion. So I'll bring it back a little bit. Last year I met, I think it was 2 or 3 times with a group of ladies from the middle and high school, as well as a couple of teachers. And they highlighted some of their concerns with the bottoms. It went from just they're not visually or aesthetically pleasing to our young ladies. They're not functional for when our young ladies are having their period at that time. And realistically, the cargo pants they don't fit well. So one of the things that we talked about was, one, we have a vendor and we always got to think about what contracts and things are in place that we need to adjust. But also, how can we maintain the school uniform, humility, modesty, and these sorts of pieces? And how can we ensure that that is enforced in a tasteful way? They came up with some really, really good ideas. And it went from, just completely asking for the whole uniform to be taken out and replaced for boys and girls. But when we got down to the problem, it's really just a problem that the females felt strong about. And really what they wanted was something that could be maybe a shade darker and can be pleated or fit to the female body a lot better than the cargo pants. So we looked at some examples, and we've got a couple of examples that we're going to be pushing out on my weekly newsletter. Essentially, the word khaki cargo shorts that's on the uniform guys guide will be replaced with khaki cargo shorts or uniform shorts. And I'll have examples in my next newsletter that goes out through Schoology of what is acceptable. Of course, they have to follow the uniform guidelines. So that is that they need to go beyond the longest finger as the student is standing in a natural position. And that's just a modesty thing. We want, this is a place of education. We want our students to be modest as well as Christian educators. So look for that this Sunday. I believe parents can see what I send out to the students as well.
I'm sure the girls will be so happy to hear that.
Yeah, it's going to be a surprise. I haven't told them yet.
Question number 2. How is biblical teaching integrated into the daily lesson time?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we're guided by standards, and we want to make sure that our students receive the best research-based education possible. But we also want to make sure that our Christian values are brought into these topics. And so whenever we are teaching a topic, let's say, for example, conflict in social studies, and our social studies, our history teachers are looking at the different conflicts over the world and the cause of the conflict and its impact on, let's say, the arts and social movements and social justice movements and the development of economics. There's always an opportunity to look into the morality of it and what does the Bible teach us about conflict and how to overcome conflict. There's always opportunities for organic organic conversations, even in science, when our teachers are talking about, evolution and the Big Bang Theory. And what does the Bible tell us about how man evolved? And what does the Bible tell us about the beginning? And how can you have science saying one thing and the Bible apparently saying the other thing? How can we marry those? And we let students with their own opinions come in, but it's always going back to, what does research tell us? What does the Bible tell us? And where do they correlate? It's a real interesting way that it's done here. Because we have a lot of non-believers in our student population. So we have to respect their opinions, but we also have to respect the Christian values that we are all about. And I heard a teacher the other day tell me, like, I think debate is good, and our students, our Christian students, need to be able to walk out of here prepared to defend their faith. And if they don't know what the other argument is, they're not going to be able to adequately defend their faith. And I thought that was just beautifully summed up by this teacher, and that was his point of view of how he conducts his classes.
And the third question, how do we control the misuse of chat using Chromebook?
Yes, I have a sixth grader. Yes. So, well, from a parent, one of the things, the computer is not to be used, his cell phone is not to be used outside of the living room where we are. So we make sure that he is with us when he is using it, so that we can see, we're not always peering over his shoulder. We give him the freedom and the space, but we make sure that, he's in a room where we can see what is going on. And if something strange pops up, the new WhatsApp scam that's going around where they pretend to be your friend and ask for a passcode and take over your contacts, we have those conversations with our children. That they need to know that if something seems suspicious, it probably is suspicious. And I think that's probably the biggest piece. Yes, you could put programs on a computer that will block certain social media programs, but that's just putting a Band-Aid over the problem. You're not teaching your child how to deal with the real problems that they're going to face. I'm not always going to be in the room with my child when they have their phone. And I need to equip my child with the skills to be able to determine whether something is inappropriate or appropriate. And so I think that's probably the best advice I give from a parent perspective. Here in school, we do block certain sites. And we've got it set, we encourage our teachers to be up and about and moving so that they are always in the periphery of what the student is doing, so that they're on task. This is the information age. I think Tony Wagner said it best when he held up his cell phone in a famous TED Talk and said, knowledge is now a commodity. It's what the kids do with the knowledge. That's the key. They can find any information they want from Google. And so we can't move the computer away from them. They're going to be using it in their jobs, in their lives. It's just teaching them how to use it appropriately and making sure they feel safe and comfortable to come and talk to us when something happens that's perhaps unsafe.
So this is a great segue to the next question, which is a little bit long, so bear with me here. My children have observed and shared that after they finish their classwork, they are given the freedom to do just anything they want, like watch soccer games on YouTube and etc. Although I appreciate that the students get to decompress, I wonder if there is a way to monitor better what the middle school and high schools do during their free time.
Yeah, I think it varies from teacher to teacher. Some will allow them to just have that decompression time. Others, I know, have them read. So it really just depends on the volume that the teacher is allowing. If it is something that is a perpetual problem, I mean, I've been in everybody's class at least 3 times, and pop-ins. If you add pop-ins, it's probably even closer to 5 or 6. You don't see too much YouTube and soccer games happening. It's usually 1 or 2 here or there. But I would say if that is a ongoing concern, then you need to, as a parent, you have every right to reach out to the teacher and respectfully ask that this not be common in the classroom. You can reach out to me if you don't feel comfortable doing that. And we can certainly look at other ways that we can keep the students occupied when the work is done. Classes are 80 minutes long. That's a long, long time to be engaged. The human brain just don't work like that. My brain doesn't work like that. So there's going to be a time where they need to decompress. I can give them all sorts of ideas that they could do in terms of physical activity. I gave a group of students today something that they can do to have brain breaks and to stretch their muscles from the last couple of days. So
I think I need some tips from you too.
yeah.
I've been sitting down too much. Let's go into the academic kind of questions. How does the school determine if a child is ready for AP, and how does she enroll for APs? Besides SAT and AP, do they also have other kinds of exams?
Yeah. So that's a great question. It can be broken down into several parts. So the first part is how do we prepare a student for the AP? Everything we do is standards based and it's all vertically aligned. And so while let's say, for example, our sixth graders are working on a set of algebra standards, those standards are developed to scaffold and grow to what will be pre-calculus standards and then calculus standards that are happening in the AP. So it's all vertically and organically designed. And it might not seem like it now as you're just watching your child do single step algebraic equations. That's what they're doing in sixth grade now. That seems a long ways away from integral calculus, but it's essential to know how to do that before you can get there. So that's one way we ensure is through standards-based teaching and learning, through having a set of standards that are vertically aligned. Another way is our honors courses. So once you go into the high school, you have biology, but you also have honors biology, which takes it to the next level, digs deeper into the topics. Generally, our students who do honors biology are tracked towards the AP classes. But just because you don't do honors doesn't mean you can't go into AP classes. AP chemistry and AP honors chemistry, sometimes it just doesn't work in a small school to fit it into the schedule. If a student is showing high engagement and high academic achievement consistently in a class, a teacher would recommend that they take AP classes. I wouldn't take AP classes for the sake of taking them. I talked about this in my IB versus AP and the flexibility that AP schools offer compared to the diploma program. Focus on what APs that the student needs to get into the program that they want to do. So if a student wants to be in economics, then obviously AP statistics and probability would be a good one to take. AP calculus might be a good one to take. AP econ would be a good one to take. But to take something like, I don't know, AP history, while it would look okay on the resume, it's not necessary. You've taken the ones that the college wants to see. And students can ask, if they don't get that recommendation, students can simply ask, can I take the AP class? And between the teacher, myself, and Mr. Lau, we make a collective decision as to whether or not the student can take the AP class. The second part of it was what other assessments do we do besides SAT and MAP and PSAT, correct? And the AP, I guess. Well, that's really a lot of the standardized assessments that we do offer. But I would like to point out one important factor that's not talked about enough, and that is SAT subject test. So in the SAT, you have the reasoning test, which is kind of like the PSAT that I highlighted in my talk. But the SAT subject test is broken down into specific subjects. So you can take an SAT Math 1 and a Math 2. One has trigonometry and advanced algebra in it, and the other one doesn't. If you're thinking about going into an engineering or science-based program, the Math SAT Subject Test 2 is a must. Schools won't tell you that, but if you do that and do well on it, that's a feather in your cap. That's a box that is checked. That makes you look a lot better than somebody who didn't take it. So I would advise the parents and students to look into the subject test for the SAT. Find your passion, find what you want to do in university and as a career, and make sure those subject tests are taken. A great example is math. Once you've done Algebra 2, you should be successful on this math subject test too. Once you've taken biology, you should be successful. So if you've taken biology in 9th grade, then in the summer between 9th and 10th grade, go out, get yourself a quick cram kind of review with a whole bunch of practice tests in it, register for the November exam, take that one. Then you do chemistry in 10th grade. Between the summer of 10th and 11th grade, take the chemistry one. Make a plan so that you're not doing 6 or 8 tests in one summer, and you'll have a great little resume when you're applying to colleges.
Do you hear the mad scribbling happening in the background of parents?
Okay, yeah.
Parents, don't worry, this
This is
recording will be
recorded.
sent to you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you will have all the subjects that Mr. Harding talked about. Let's move on. Will there be map testing in middle school?
Yes, we will do another map test in the spring. And as I said, this is a way for us to measure the growth of our students. So we're not going to be taking that and saying, oh, well, we're not doing as well as Stanford American or Singapore American. That's not what we use that test for. We use that test to see, have we taught our standards well? If we see a lack of growth, then that tells us as educators that we need to rethink what we did from the first map test in the fall to the second map test in the spring, and what adjustments can we make or should we make? Do we have to make? There really isn't a choice to do better next time. Rarely do you see a drop. Sometimes you do from spring to fall, but that's explained more by the 2 months off than anything else. But yeah, we will have it in the spring for our grade. Believe we go up into the high school actually in the fall. We do it in the high school as well. So yes, there will be another map test, and it does not. I mean, it won't. It don't. Kids don't need to be worried about if they don't do well in the map test. We're not going to let them go to the next grade. That's not what it's used for in any way, shape, or form.
Phew. And will there be competitive sports happening soon?
We just heard that 3-on-3 basketball. We will be part of that. I believe it's in a U format, so like U19, U17, U15, U12s and such. Mr. Wood is still getting information from Sports SG. So one announcement comes out and then another announcement comes out and then another announcement comes out. Nothing has come out that tells us that we're going to be able to play volleyball or soccer. And that's quite disappointing because I know for our boys, soccer is a very big sport, and for both boys and girls, volleyball is a very big sport. So sadly, not yet for those two, but definitely for the U levels of basketball at a 3-on-3 level. And that's so that we can have 8. So there'll be 3 players on the court, 1 substitute for a total of 8.
And a segue to that question is there any plans to have PE and Bible throughout the whole year instead of just half the year?
Yeah, we're actually looking at how Mr. Lau and I have that for one of our speaking points. I can't be certain that what would happen next year. We just need to see how it can work itself out. The idea for me that this is going to come to no shock to anyone. The idea to me that students are not engaged in PE classes all year round is a bit perplexing. Students need physical activity. The brain works much better when students are physically active. And the fact that we're pulling it away seems a bit strange. But I know a lot of schools around the world are doing that, and are doing that because they want to fit in the academic subjects. But we're doing a lot of problem solving and brainstorming and puzzling to just see how we can make it work. But small school with a limited number of teachers and a limited number of blocks and a limited number of time makes it a challenge.
And when do we start the re-enrollment of our children for the next school year?
It has already started. You should have received notification on February 1st. So you can check your email that you registered through PowerSchool with our school. All the information will be in there from our academic office from our admissions office. And follow the steps along the way. We do hope that everybody wants to come back to ICS. We love having your kids here. We love what they add to our community. I mean, it's just been amazing to be around that group of students in the middle and high school, and even the fun and engaging conversations with the elementary kids as they walk by and say hi to me, confuse me with Mr. Kirshner. Especially when I really shave my hair, they can't tell the difference. It's so much fun. We're such a family here, and we want them back. We want everybody to come back, just because it's such a close-knit community, and there's such friendships and love and care here that it's almost like losing a family member when a student withdraws. But you can do that from now, really, up until the middle of March. But we encourage you to do it early because that helps us.
This is a question from a parent that has the first child is in elementary, so they're not quite sure what happens. What's the difference between grade 5 and grade 6? What do they need to know about the difference?
I think the biggest difference coming in for our grade sixes is getting used to all the moving around. I think that's the biggest difference. Having a child that has just gone from grade 5 into grade 6, from one school to the other, the biggest hurdle he had to overcome was organization and time management. It wasn't about the academics. He was able to come in and do okay. I mean, there's lots of extra help that had to happen in the beginning, but he went from one program to the other, which is a rabbit hole I could go down about the PYP versus what he's doing here. But for him, it was really about making sure he had time to go get stuff in his locker, making sure he had time to get his snack, making sure he could get from one block to the other in the 10 minutes, knowing when to refill his water bottle, his locker combination, remembering his locker combination. These are all struggles that they faced. It wasn't so much in the classroom. It was the getting from one class to the other, the idea of having 4 different teachers in a day. That's probably the biggest adjustment. But if you do want to hear more about that, I would encourage you to attend the joint town hall session on March 4th with Mr. Kirshner and I, because we will be focusing on just that, the progression of academics from elementary into middle and into high, as well as the transition from grade 5 into grade 6. Dr. Rader, Mr. Kirshner, Dr. Helen Rader, sorry, Mr. Kirshner, Ms. Gunawan and Ms. Bandy and I, we've already started conversations about what it has looked like and how we can do it better, and how we can do it so that we keep within the safe distancing numbers that we're currently under. So March 4th, I would encourage you to come March 4th. But the biggest one, definitely organization and time management skills. That's the one.
Excellent. And for our last question, which is a little bit heavy,
Okay.
long, so I get the impression that there's a strong perception among high schoolers that it is difficult for them to obtain good grades with the new SBA and grading system, and
Mm.
that they may be at a disadvantage when applying to colleges. What is ICS doing to ensure that colleges will view our students' applications and their grade reports in the right context?
Yeah.
While US colleges may view applications more holistically, universities in other countries such as UK and Australia and Singapore typically place more emphasis on the academic records.
Yeah.
Are there any plans to get actual feedback from college admissions officers, either this application cycle or the next?
Yeah, I mean, actually, Mr. back in the fall, Mr. Lau did reach out to several colleges and universities to ask that question as the first set of assessments came out and many students and parents were worried. And what he shared this at a couple of his info sessions. And I would encourage you, if you see Mr. Lau is offering info sessions, I would encourage you to go, because these are the kinds of questions and things that he answers. These are the kinds of rumors that he puts a stop to. Every college asks for the school's profile. And in the school profile is a detailed explanation of our assessment policy and guidelines. And so they're all given a context of who we are and how we assess. So around the world, you have a multitude of assessments. New Zealand marks on merit and distinction, similar to the words we use. And you get M's and D's. And so you can imagine seeing a transcript with 8 D's on it, and an American's going, whoa, hang on a second, you can't come to our college because you've got all D's, but D's mean distinction. It's actually the highest grade you can get. So there has to be that context that they need to look at. So universities are used to looking at these pieces of different transcripts with different grading systems, and they always go back to the school's profile. We develop our profile that gives the demographics of our school, gives the size of our school, where our faculty is from, where our students have gone to universities in the past, our AP scores, our PSAT scores, and a detailed page that explains our grading system. And so they have what an A looks like here. They know that an A on our transcript is not the traditional A that you would see in most transcripts. They know that it means that student is an exemplary student at our school. And they know that anybody who has a B is a very good student as well, because you're meeting the standard. It means you know how to do everything that's been taught to you. You haven't taken it to that next level of Steve Jobs and these types of people who can just think completely differently and outside of the box, but your stuff. And then your PSATs coupled with it, your SATs coupled with it, your AP scores coupled with it, teacher recommendations. There's so much that goes into all of this. I will say, as an administrator in 3 different countries now, and when I do admissions, I see report cards come by. I've gotten used to knowing what they all mean, right? And if you don't, we reach out to the schools. And universities will often do that as well. We'll reach out to the schools if they don't understand it.
It's a pleasure hosting this moderating Q&A session with you.
Thank you.
Up to you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gill, for your moderation and your big smile. And thank you to the parents and the guardians who attended this first ever Principals Town Hall. It's been a delight to present to you, and it's been a delight to engage with your children. I wake up every morning and love to go to work. And I can tell you there have been days in the past where that's not been true, but not one single day has passed here at ICS where I don't wake up eager to come to work. And that's because of your children. So thank you all for joining. We will see you in the next town hall, which will be March 4th, a joint session between Mr. Kirshner and I. Look forward to that email and the announcements of future town halls. Watch our weekly announcements, and also follow us on social media. We have an Instagram, a Facebook, and a LinkedIn account. Look for our blog and all the other amazing things that our marketing department are doing. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.